Hi, this is Jason Canio, and once again it's time for Jay's Retro Toys and Games for Friday, November 11th, 2022. And tonight we've got another great continual part of our show where we'll be looking at our featured toy that's, of course, been around since 1953. And we've covered so much history in the last two parts that tonight we'll conclude this look at this classic toy of the 1950s that is in still popularity today. Yes, we're looking at part 3 of Matchbox Cars tonight on Jay's Retro Toys and Games. All right, we welcome you to this edition on this Friday, November 11th, 2022. I'm your host, Jason DeCanio, welcoming you again. Happy Veterans Day to all of you veterans out there who are celebrating a special day, which is your day today, for all the work that you did to protect us during those tough wars of the World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. And if you're a veteran in general, we wish you a happy Veterans Day today. All right, talking about Matchbox Cars, and this is part 3. This is the finale of our look at this very, very classic toy of the 1950s, and it's spanning a 70-year celebration this year, actually. It's close to it. Next year will mark its 70th, I think it'll make it 70 years. Let me see. This is the 69th year. Oh, boy. So we're looking, 69 years this year. Next year we'll make 70. So we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to be looking at Matchbox Collectibles. All of our information comes from, of course, the Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. All right, part 3 goes like this. Starting in the Universal era and continuing until after Mattel purchased the brand, a growing awareness of the adult collector led to multiple series being produced specifically for that market. The idea was not new. In the 1960s, Lesney had first realized the potential for adult buyers of its products and had marketed gold and silver-plated versions of its yesteryear series mounted on pen stands, ashtrays, and similar items. Also, as mentioned above, the history in the 1970s, in particular the 80s, contact by the company to collectors and sponsors led to the release of a small number of highly collectible models designed for a limited but more profitable market base. Most often these models were yesteryears, though the I-75 series or the 175 series were also used for this purpose. Matchbox introduced the Matchbox Collectibles name to designate purpose-made collectible items. Initially, the Matchbox Collectibles range revolved mainly around 175 or convoy models, usually produced with a high level of tampo or mask spray detailing with rubber tires and chrome wheels. The models were manufactured in limited quantities and sold at better-stocked retail stores as Premier Collectibles, World Class, First Editions, Barrett-Jackson, etc. for a premium price. Now, this concept of making intentionally collectible versions of toy cars was widely copied by the competition, including Hot Wheels and Johnny Lightning. Later, the models of yesteryear, Dinky, and Convoy series were also used as a basis for creating themed collectible mini-series of models, while the Super Kings range often yielded large-scale truck specials, all of which were generally offered only by mail order. At that time, Matchbox Collectibles Inc. essentially became a semi-independent subunit of Matchbox International Ltd. The idea was quite successful, leading to the creation of many new, high-quality castings over a relatively short time span. Tie-ins with major brands like Texaco, Campbell's Soup, Coca-Cola, Hershey's Chocolate, Jack Daniels, etc. increased the attractiveness of the range. However, to finance the new castings, prices continually increased, while castings were reused for multiple purposes, sometimes rather far from realistic. And although the main scales tended to hover around the 143, 150, or the 1/100 for truck models, eventually there were even 124 automobiles, airplanes and tanks in appropriate scales, they made their returns as well. However, the timing of these latter series was almost as poor as in the 1970s, as about 3 years after Mattel bought the Matchbox brand, development of the collectibles range was effectively halted, and Matchbox Collectibles Inc. was mothballed. Some models continued to be marketed via major retailers such as Target in the U.S. Then, of course, Matchbox set up its own plastic kit division in the UK around the 72-73 season, concentrating on 172 scale military aircraft and 176 military vehicles. It competed with the then dominant Airfix company, and the Matchbox kits had a distinctive appearance. The parts in each kit were produced in 2 or 3 colors compared to the single color plastic of Airfix. The boxes were also more colorful and included clear windows so the contents could be seen. In addition, unlike Airfix's military vehicle kits, the Matchbox military vehicle kits all came with the same diorama base. At the end of the decade, Matchbox bought the AMT Corporation, an American plastic model kit manufacturer, and AMT's line of 125 scale cars and trucks was continued. The Matchbox kits were well made with modern tooling and techniques, but critics felt that the kits were too coarsely detailed in comparison with other models on the market and too toy-like. Yet they were still just as complex and time-consuming to construct as any other kit, which limited their appeal to more casual model builders. The company was unable to fully satisfy either the casual or serious model building market, and was one of the first companies to abandon model kits when the hobby started its decline, selling AMT to the Ertl Company and shutting down its own kit division less than 20 years after starting it. The original Matchbox model kits, they are very highly collectible. They come in 172, 148, 132 scale aircraft, 132 and 176 scale military vehicles, 176 scale soldiers, scale ships in the 1700, 132 scale cars, and the 112 scale motorcycles. In addition, it produced the well-known 172 Flower class Corvette. The Matchbox model kit molds were acquired in the early 90s by Revell Germany, which continues to sporadically reissue the old Matchbox kits now under the Revell label. Recently, a number of the most desirable Matchbox kits have made reappearances to the delight of modelers. In the 172 scale, the Handley Page Victor, the Supermarine Walrus, the Handley Page Halifax, and the PB4Y Privateer, and in 148 scale, the A1E 4-seat Sky Raider. Many modelers are also looking forward to a re-release of the MK2, the MK6, Hawker Tempest, the English Electric Canberra, and the RR Spey Phantom. Revell has confirmed that it will be re-releasing the much sought-after 132 scale Spitfire MK22 with Griffin and the 132 scale de Havilland Venom. Numerous additional product lines have been produced and are sold by Matchbox over the years, particularly in the Lesney area. Collectors' catalogs were published in various languages by the company each year starting in 1957, continuing well into the 1980s. Collector cases were designed for children to carry or store their 175 vehicles, and from 1957 until the 70s, a range of garages and service stations was offered in either SO or PB or BP logos under the series number MG1. There was also jigsaw puzzles of photographs depicting Matchbox vehicles in realistic-looking situations, racetrack sets, Superfast Track was yellow as opposed to Hot Wheels orange, and of a slightly wider gauge. A particularly clever plastic snap-together wall display system, roadways, and even a slot car system for standard non-power car models, the Matchbox motorways. At several points, in an attempt to move into Mattel and Hasbro territory, Matchbox produced dolls, first a line of pirate dolls for younger school-age boys, and later baby dolls for preschool girls. Numerous other non-die-cast items have been marketed, as well as a number of shorter-lived die-cast series, the historic inn signs, Disney cars, the Thunderbirds models, etc. And as mentioned above, Matchbox also tried its hand in the die-cast aeroplanes area under the name Skybusters. The models were not only produced for children. Skybusters produced plane models for such airlines as Air Mexico, Air France, British Airways, Iberia, Lufthansa, and Saudi Arabian Airlines. However, they were and are more designed for the inexpensive toy market. Promotional models sold by the airlines themselves more often tend to be models of higher quality, exactness, and price. Then in the late 1960s, the Arnold Mini Mobile system of Germany was marketed as the Matchbox Motorway in the UK. These consisted of easily assembled hard plastic track designed to look like concrete roads rather than the soft plastic of Hot Wheels and Superfast track. The system worked by means of trackside electric motors driving continuous spring loops which would run in channels. Small plastic pins could be attached to the underside of Matchbox vehicles, which would pass through the slot in the track and engage with the spring, allowing the vehicles to be pulled along. There were three main sets, M1, M2, and M3. Set M1 consisted of a simple oval of track, small huts, and on each side of the main straight track section contained the individual motors which powered each lane, allowing the vehicles in adjacent lanes to be raced, although all vehicles in the same lane would travel at the same speed. As the drive spring for the outer slot would be longer than that of the inner slot, the springs were stored in color-coded bags in the box. Set M2 consisted of a simple figure of 8 track, with both driving springs being of the same length. The springs were driven in a similar method to those in the M1 set. Set M3, known as Switch a Track, instead of separate motors, had a single motor hidden in a dummy roundhouse in the center of a roundabout. Whereas Set M2 had a simple figure of 8 layout, Set M3 had a track layout consisting of 2 extended loops connected by means of the central roundabout. Each of the 4 exits from the roundabout had a rocker switch, which, through a mechanical linkage, moved small turnouts which would allow the vehicles to change path. In addition, there was a Set E2, an extension pack which could be added to Set M2, which allowed for a greater variety of track layouts. Then there were slot cars. These were the late 70s. The Matchbox also produced slot cars called Power Track or Speed Track, which featured working headlights. Some Power Track models had parallel issues in the normal Matchbox 175 line. Other slot car sets from Matchbox included a lane changer, which allowed cars to switch lanes, and a race and chase set, which featured a police car and chased car, which could jump and U-turn. Also in the late 70s, Matchbox produced a small range of 132 and 176 Second World War toy soldiers in direct competition to Airfix. These sets included British, Germany, and American infantry, the British 8th Army, and the German Afrika Korps, and British Commandos. And though Matchbox sets featured fewer figures than comparable Airfix sets, that's 15 versus 29 and 132, they included weapons that Airfix did not model, with like flamethrowers, heavy machine guns, and Montgomery and Rommel figures in the Desert War sets. The figures were popular for their high-quality molding and their different extra weapons and poses as compared to the more common Airfix sets. Also during the 70s, Matchbox created its own lines of action figures, including Matchbox Fighting Furies, a pirate and cowboy figures with separate costumes in 1974, and Mobile Action Command, plastic figures with accessories and rescue-themed vehicles. From the 1980s onwards, its action figure lines tied in with television and animations such as Ring Raiders, Robotech, Voltron, Parasites, Monster in My Pocket, and Pee-wee's Playhouse. They ceased developing most of such lines when Matchbox was absorbed into Tyco, and some of the Robotech toys were later re-released by Playmates Toys under the Exo Squad line. In the 90s and early 2000s, Matchbox also published several video games that tied into the Matchbox line of model vehicles. These games featured construction and emergency services like police, fire, ambulance, and rescue, with gameplay involving vehicle-appropriate action sequences. For example, intercepting a robbery with a squad car in Motor City Patrol. These games were developed by other companies for a variety of platforms, including Game Boy, handheld gamers, the NES video gaming system, and PC, and there were plans to release more Matchbox games on the NES system. However, they only released Motor City Patrol. Matchbox games not released to North America included Sir Eric the Bold, which never got past prototype stage, Matchbox Racers, and Noah's Ark, only the latter being eventually released in Europe by Konami. And however, due to Nintendo's strict policies against any forms of religion in their games, it is likely that they would have faced internal controversy. A live-action film adaptation produced by Mattel Films was announced in January of 2022. Later this year, Skydance Media joins in making the film with Mattel Films. And as with any other item dealing with transport, sport or similar themes, it did not take long before Matchbox models became collectible items with rabid followings, collectors' meets, etc. The Fred Bronner Corporation of American importer of Lesney toys, took a first step towards organizing this movement to a small extent by creating the Matchbox Collectors Club, which produced a polished quarterly 4 to 6 page newsletter for a small membership fee starting in the late 60s. The MCC was primarily aimed at young collectors. In the 70s, adult collectors began to form semi-official clubs to discuss collecting at a higher level of sophistication. Variations were discussed and cataloged, swap meets organized, and new journals or bulletins began to appear, written by and for the serious collector. Not unlike stamps or coins, prices for older and or more collectible models began to spiral upwards in a trend that continues. Collecting is, however, not limited to the models themselves. Anything related to Matchbox, that's catalogs, dealer display cases, promotional literature, is also collected. And in the U.S., 2 competing clubs were both established in Massachusetts: the National Association of Matchbox Collectors, run by Bob Brennan, and the American International Matchbox Club, run by Harold Kolpitz. These clubs were the central force of Matchbox collecting in the U.S. during the 70s and 80s, though both have since ceased to exist, and from them, further spin-offs were formed, including UK Matchbox, run by Ray Bush, the Matchbox International Collectors Association, or MICA, and the Matchbox USA, run by Charlie Mack, the latter of which are still in operation. Charles Mack, as well as others, have also published books for collectors showing models, their variations, and giving value/price guidance. The Route 66 Diecast Collectors Gathering of Friends is also in existence and happens annually in July and is located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. This is the only existing diecast show to feature the Matchbox team making an appearance and having exclusive models made just for the advent. Dinky collecting is centered around the UK and France. Corgi collecting in the UK and Hot Wheels collecting in North America. Only Matchbox collecting is popular in the UK, the Commonwealth countries, and in North America. And like many high-value collectible items, Matchbox models are now prone to faking. Rare variations can be quite easily made up using genuine parts and then sold as a rare variation. Matchbox Skybusters series is a range of diecast model aircraft produced under the Matchbox brand, initially by Lesney Products and later by Mattel. The earlier Skybusters were produced in 1973 from London, England. During the 70s, Skybusters competed against Dynaflights, produced by San Diego-based Z Toys, that's ZEE Toys, and the Ertl Company, distributed Hong Kong-manufactured Lintoy. Skybusters combined military and commercial aircraft models at their earlier stage, and the United States Air Force, Air France, Federal Express, Lufthansa, and QX Express were among the first brands to advertise with Skybusters. Some of the first Skybusters released were Learjet, Airbus A3000, Boeing 747, and Corsair AD-7 airplanes. Then, in 1976, the Skybusters line was returned at a time when the die-cast airplanes market was largely dominated by Dynaflights. The brand kept coming on and off the market until the 2000s when Mattel decided to release the models each year. Currently, no airlines are under contract with Matchbox to produce Skybuster models, and the most recent ones being American Airlines, UPS, British Airways, and Alaskan Airlines. Lufthansa and DHL, Delta Airlines, and United Airlines did not have a contract with Matchbox since the takeover of Northwest Airlines and Continental Airlines, respectively. But jetliners are released under fictional air names such as Matchbox Airlines, also called MBX Airways. And there you have it, friends. The finale of the Matchbox car and all of its glory. The 69th happy birthday to Matchbox. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed the three-part series. Next time on the program, we're going to be looking at its predecessor, Hot Wheels. Hoo-hoo-hoo! That's right, and it's a good one. It started in 1968 and been around for 54 years. We'll look at Hot Wheels in all of its glory next week on Jay's Retro Toys and Games. I'm Jason Icanio, thanking you very much for your continued support of the YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Keep those views coming. And remember, of course, check out our Facebook group page for more up-to-date information on your favorite toy and game also. That's it for tonight. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. We will see you on Monday. I'm Jason Icanio. Remember, be honest, be real, and keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. We will see you on Monday. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Democracy Network for great more content like this one.